This is Matt Knapp, and you're listening to the Bigfoot Club podcast.
Hey guys, please go to our website at www.bigfootclubpodcast.com. Please check out our bios, please buy some merch, and you can listen to all our old episodes. Also, check us out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find us by typing Bigfoot Club @1. That's Bigfoot Club, the number 1. Also, if you have any strange stories or if you just want to reach out to us, please email us at bigfootclub, the number 1, @gmail.com. Also, check out Matt Knapp's Bigfoot Crossroads. He is on all platforms. Yeah. Hey everybody, Robert Jesse Dominguez, Bigfoot Club, Season 4, Episode 20. I'm actually here with my nephew, Steven. Steven, say what's up.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Happy that the week is over.
Yeah, was this a tough week?
Yeah, work. Yeah, it was just one of those work weeks where you're just like things get thrown at you, and you could either let it beat you to your knees, or you can get back up and just keep moving. So
yeah.
I think that's a Rocky quote. I think
you're quoting Rocky now.
I think so. Yeah. But yeah, what about you?
It's actually been a really, really weird week. So I think today we have. I'm really excited. We got John Kershaw. He's actually has a podcast, Creepers, Cryptid, and Paranormal Corner podcast. John Kershaw, hello.
Hey man, how you going?
Hey man, I just wanted you to know that I heard your story because I interviewed Sarah Bignall a couple of weeks ago, and I've actually started listening. Yep. I started listening to her show probably about 2 months ago, and your show was the very first one that I actually listened to. And,
oh, nice.
And I was messaging her. I said, "Hey, I'm really interested in this story here," and so she hooked us up to talk. So.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. She does a real good job. She's a lovely lady too. She's so nice, and I listened to her episode the other day that you did with her, and it's exactly how she is. The way she comes across and that, she's just awesome. She's just out to help everyone.
Yeah, because I think her background was like a social worker or something. But Steven didn't he didn't get a chance to interview her, but we had to do it I think I did at midnight here, and it was 3:00 there or something. So
yeah. Okay, now I know. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I felt bad.
Yeah,
but yeah.
No, she's really good. When we did the episode, I think the episode went for about an hour or so, but we were on the phone for nearly 2 hours, just chatting and stuff after it and that. She's just really good, and you could hear from my encounter, it was pretty creepy, and it sort of messed me up a bit. So it's good to get out and talk to you guys and anyone else, and that sort of helps me more than anything. So just sort of get over it and actually realize it's happening to other people too. So it was really good talking to her.
I was going to ask you, did you have these encounters with the Yowie and this other cryptid before you actually did a podcast, and then it kind of got you to do a podcast, or what?
Yeah, well, I had my first Yowie encounter. I think I was about 15, and then nothing had happened up until about 3 years ago, and I had another encounter with a Yowie, I think, but now after I've had this encounter with a Dogman, it may have been the same creature, just in a different area. Okay. But anyway, so it's happened about 3 years ago. I was around that anyway, about 2 years. And after that happened, I had these couple more encounters, a year later with the Dogman and another Yowie. And after that happened, we got put into lockdown and everything with COVID, and I was working through the whole of COVID, and everyone else was at home in lockdown and stuff, but I still had to go. But I just needed something to do to get my mind off being locked up in the house and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it was sort of my way of getting into it. I just wanted to have something I could do, and I'd be at home, and once lockdown broke, I got out and did a few videos and stuff like that. It's only little at the moment, but hopefully I can build it up a bit more, because I love it. I get out, and most of the time if I'm doing an investigation video and stuff, I've got the missus and me 2 little kids with me too, and it's good to get them out in the bush and stuff like that. And yeah, so just sort of started from there.
If you wouldn't mind, do you mind going back to like your very first like incident whenever you were like 15?
Yeah, it was actually down by Nana Pop's farm. When Nana Pop owned a farm with my auntie and uncle, and we went down there for a trip. We'd been down there a few times. That Dad didn't really get a chance to go down there. He worked night shift all the time, so he'd work on, say, the Friday night, and he'd get home at Saturday, nearly lunchtime and stuff like that. So if we went down there for a trip, we'd go without him. So I think this was the first time my dad had actually been down there. And do you want me to? Yeah, I'll get into the whole encounter, or do you want me to?
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd love to hear this story. So. Yeah,
so we got there. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and it's about 3.5 hours southwest of Sydney. So you go down. It's sort of in between Sydney and Canberra, if you guys know where that is. But so it's out in the bush, and we got down there about 11 o'clock, and at that stage, no one lived there. It was just sort of a hobby farm. We'd like our family would go down. Nana Pop would go down. My auntie and uncles and the other auntie and that, we just sort of try and get down there at the same time, but sometimes it was like odd weekends and stuff like that. But so we got down there, and Nana Pop were down there waiting for us, and they'd already set up, like turned the power on and got the fire going and stuff like that. And Pop was sitting around the fire having a coffee, and Pop was saying about they just got a dam installed in the property. It was a massive dam. It was 100 metres long by 50 metres wide, and at its deepest point was about 12 and a half metres deep. Mm-hmm. That's a massive dam. It's nearly like a lake for down here. And we were talking about it, and he got it stocked with fish. And we're like, oh, we should go down and have a look. And we're sort of saying we'll go down in the morning. And me nan said to us, well, we've got torches here if you want to go for a walk now. And we got all G'd up and went, yeah, how good's this? Yeah, we'll go for a walk. We haven't been down for a walk around the property at night time before, and it would be cool to get down and see the kangaroos and wombats and any other animals that are around. And so we decided to go down there, and we actually started heading out. It's about it'd be around 1 kilometre, if not a little bit shorter, walk down to the dam. We got about halfway down, and we heard a bit of a rustle in the bush, and we sort of stopped and went, what's that? And we seen a big set of eyes, and it was running towards us, and we sort of freaked out. And back then, I think, I don't know if you guys have got dolphin torches over there. The torches they just have in boats and stuff like that. They're not real bright, it's just enough to sort of see where you're going. We had 2 of them, and my uncle was a security guard at the time, so it was when the LED little sort of security guard torches come out. They weren't even like a big mag, like just a little one.
Right.
So you could only see probably 10, 15 metres in front of you. And we hit some, like, seeing the big eyes running at us, and once it got about 10, 15 metres away, it was actually, my uncle had bought a horse, and it was in the paddock, and it was running towards us, and it freaked us out because we didn't know it was in the paddock, and we all started to laugh. And so we started to walk off a bit more, and Mum said, can you guys smell that? And we stopped, and you could actually smell like a fire, like a bushfire. Mm-hmm. And like over here, like it'd be the same for you guys, but you smell a fire, and you know it's a fire straight away. And it smelled like eucalyptus sort of bushes, like trees and that burning. And we're like, that's weird. Like we can't hear anything. 11 o'clock by the time this stage, it was about 12 o'clock by the time we started heading down and that. But the way they are, like the way the property is, if someone was even having a bonfire, say 5 kilometres away, you'd see the glow in the sky.
Right.
If you're that far down in the bush, like you get middle of the night, you can just see anything glowing at night. And we're like, we can't see a fire. That's weird. Didn't think of anything. We started walking off. All of a sudden, Mum said, stop again. Can you hear that? And I said, what? And she said, it sounds like a bushfire. And we stopped and we started listening to that, and sure enough, you could hear like the roar of like a big fire running through, like the. We're like, what the hell? Like, and that's when we started to think, what the hell's going on? Like, we can smell fire, now we can hear it, but we can't see it. Like, what's going on?
You can't see it glowing at all. That's weird.
Yeah, and you could hear it. Like when we have bushfires over here, they're massive bushfires. Like. And that sort of sounded like, so we're like, what the hell? And then it was just like, bang, nothing. Couldn't hear anything. still didn't think of anything. So we started to walk down, and just before you get to the dam, there's a little creek we got to cross and stuff. And we're probably 50 metres from this little creek, and you go through a gateway. So as we come through the gateway, we heard a big crash bang, and all of a sudden you could hear this weird noise. It's like something flying through the sky, like a whoop, 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 whoop. And all of a sudden a big massive branch smashed into the fence behind us. And we sort of freaked out, and you heard like stuff cracking and stuff like that, and something run off. And we freaked and we ran. So we've run all the way back up to the house, and we got probably 50 metres off the house, and me pop's a bit of a practical joker and that, and he was still up the house with my little sister, and he didn't know what was going on. He obviously couldn't hear it. But we got about 50 metres from the house, and they got like an old machinery shed. So when we first head off, either him or my sister's run down, they've put a little lantern there, and as we run past it, he's got a little remote control, and he hit it, and it lit up, and we all screamed and freaked us out. So we ran inside, and he was laughing and that, and we give it to him. We told him where to go because he scared the crap out of us after what happened. And
Yeah.
we were telling him what happened, and he was sort of like, oh yeah, it's nothing, we'll go for a drive down and have a look. So he jumped in the car and went down, and when you cross the creek, there's a big massive willow tree there. When there was a crash bang, like a crack in that, one of the branches on the willow tree is actually broken, and underneath the willow tree, the grass was all like patted down.
Mm-hmm.
And my pop said, oh, it must have been the goats down here, blah, blah, blah. And he said that noise going through the sky, that might have been birds flying off or something, but it was literally still the branch next to the fence that had been obviously been thrown at us. And it was massive. Like, me and Dad would be lucky to pick it up, and whatever this thing was, it actually broken it off the tree and thrown it at us.
It wasn't like it was like the branch fell straight down and landed, right? It was like that tree was far from the fence, right?
Yeah, so we were, like I say, we just went through the gate. It was about 50 metres from the creek, and this willow tree's on the other side of the creek, in between the creek and the dam. So it's come from there. It's gone at least 50 metres, went over us, and hit the fence behind us.
Mm.
Like, it was a massive branch. Like, we could have picked it up, and maybe me and Dad sort of like threw it probably 5 metres or something together, like teamwork throwing it. But whatever this was, it's thrown it like over 50 metres and nearly hit us.
Wow.
I don't think it was trying to hit us. I think it was just trying to scare us. But
get you out of the area.
And after that sort of happened, we went over and had a look, and all the grass was patted down, and we went for a drive further up, like to where the dam was and that. We didn't see any more signs of anything. But yeah, we got back and we were sitting around talking about it, and it was probably 2 days later, me and Dad went for a fish in the creek a bit further up. You go up to one part of the property and jump the fence, and there's a big open part of the creek. It's big enough that you can sort of have a fish and stuff. And we're in there and we're fishing away, and we heard a noise and heard a bump bump through the bush, and we went, oh, what's that? We sort of freaked out a bit, and a little kangaroo come out. And we were laughing, and Dad was giving it to me because I scared the crap out of me and that, and he's laughing and that. And it's probably about 5 minutes later, we were still fishing away, and we heard this bump, bump, bump through the bush again, but it was about 10 times heavier. We're like, oh, it's another kangaroo. And we looked over at the little kangaroo that come out, and it looked at us, and you could see the fear in its eyes. And it's taken off, jumped over the creek, and just took off over the hills. And that's when me and Dad grabbed our stuff, and we ran and got on the motorbike and rode back up the house. Like, whatever it was massive coming through the bush. So we don't know if it's the same creature that we'd encountered a couple of days ago, but that kangaroo, the look in its eye, I've never seen a kangaroo look like it. Was like, holy crap, I'm getting out of here, I'm going to get eaten. So we bolted.
Did you smell like anything on both occasions at all? Did you smell anything at all other than the fire?
No, just the smell of the fire. And over here you get a lot of, it's actually, after it happened, we got home, like got back to the house, and we were laughing about like, what the hell was that? And Dad said maybe it was a yowie, and that was actually the first time I'd heard about yowies, and that's the Australian version of Bigfoot.
Right.
And back then we only had dial-up internet, so I said to Pop, "Can I go on the internet and have a look at it and look up?"
Yeah.
And we looked up, and we found the Australian Yowie research website. I don't know if you guys, or you'd know about it now after talking to Sarah.
Yeah.
But back then, that was the only place you could find any information, and I looked it up, and there was places within, say, 50 to 100 kilometres of Nenopop's property that had encounters with yowies, and it was crazy. And a lot of the encounters they heard what it sounded like a fire roaring, and they reckon it was actually, when they encountered it was a yowie roaring at them like that. And there was a lot of encounters as well of smelling bushfire or stuff like that when people had been around yowies. And that scared the crap out of me.
New, that's odd. I mean, because like I equate a lot of that stuff to. I mean, because I know in the States here we have, whenever someone has an encounter with like a Bigfoot here, they smell like a pungent smell. Whenever the alphas, or I'm assuming the alphas, whenever they feel threatened or they want to push you out of an area, they emit this pungent smell. And I wonder if that's the yowie version of this pungent smell, is like the bushfire.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of different reports. Like there's the pungent sort of like a dirty animal smell. Mm-hmm. There's also like sort of something that smells like a septic tank. Like ammonia or whatever you call it. Like that real dirty crap smell. And then like even like dead rotten animals, you get that smell too. And I've encountered that a few times when I've been down the river fishing, not seen anything, but you'll be paddling along and all of a sudden you can smell like something dead in the water, rotten, and you look around, there's nothing there. But then all of a sudden, like, someone flicked the switch and the smell's gone. Yeah, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what's going on there?
I've actually had that in East Texas a bunch of times, too. I've smelled it really quick, and then it's gone. So
and there's no wind around or anything. It's like, what the hell? And you look and you think, because a lot of times you'll be down the river, and some of the spots I go to, like sometimes I'll paddle in my kayak, say, an hour and a half, 2 hours up the river before I start fishing, because our rivers get so heavily fished that you've got to get out of town to actually have a chance of catching anything. Mm-hmm. And you'll get that far up the river and you'll find like the odd kangaroo or a wombat that's fallen in and died and decomposing in the water and that. And you're like, oh yeah, see, when you get that smell, you can look and you go, oh, there's a kangaroo or there's a cow or there's something in the water. But when you get it and you go, wow, that's the stinkiest thing I've ever smelled, and you're looking around, there's nothing, and then while you're thinking about it, it's just gone. You're like, what the hell? What was that?
You know what's funny is that, like, I know I've been in, like, East Texas a bunch of times, and I've heard, like, something, like, trampling through the woods, like, something, like, massive, and it's like an armadillo. So I imagine, like a kangaroo coming to the, like, through the bush there, it probably sounds like a freight train, and then it pops out, and they're, oh, okay, it's just a kangaroo.
Yeah,
so.
But with the kangaroo, you can tell if it's a kangaroo, because you get the hopping sound, like, you can even count, like, sort of, it's like 1, 2, hop, 1, 2, hop. Like, you can sort of pick it. But some things, like, I've had other encounters and that, and, yeah, you're like, that's way too big and does not sound like a kangaroo or a wombats make a lot of noise too. Like, right. I don't know if you guys are really familiar with wombats and that. Like, it's hard with being in America. Like, wombats to us is like nothing. You see them when you walk out your house, but over there, you might see.
I don't know if we have those here.
No, they're just native to Australia.
Maybe to the zoo, maybe?
It looks like a kind of like a fat
koala.
like a fat koala.
Yeah.
A fat raccoon is what it looks like to me. So.
Yeah. But they're like concrete walls. Like, you hit them with a car and that's your car gone. Like, even the little ones. I've had friends where they've had old Holdens and stuff that are like built like old tanks, and they'll hit one that say 100 kilometers an hour, which is 60 mile an hour for you. Yeah. And that whole car's written off, like its insurance job gone.
That's crazy. You're like, that's crazy.
You're like, that wombat was like not even 3.5, 4 kilos heavy, like no weight to them at all, but they're just hard, tough. So you can just imagine them, and they sort of grunt when they run through the bush, so that you sort of know it's a wombat coming. But some of them coming through the bush, you're like, is that a cow? Like, what is that? And then the little wombat will come out grunting at you, and that's crazy.
I wonder.
But yeah, so that happened, and we looked it up and seen all the Yowie reports, and I was like, that was me. I was like, wow, I've got to learn it. I've got to find out more about these things.
What were you going to say, Steve?
I was going to say, like, back to the fire, and because that's like really intriguing. Like, was there like a massive like like fire outbreak there. Like I keep thinking it's residual. Like it's a residual.
Yeah, no, there's. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. Like I haven't really thought of it, but I think it was in the 1800s. There's actually a plaque when you're driving into their property. So you drive down a main road and take a turn off. You get a dirt road, and then you sort of go through another property and get to the farm. But before you turn off, on the side of the road, there's a plaque, and it was in the 1800s. I think there was a bushfire that went through, and they said on this day in 1800, I think it was 1860 or something like that, it was something like 100,000 sheep were killed in a bushfire just on one property there.
Wow.
So maybe, yeah, like I've never even thought of that. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. Like it could be like a residual thing where, you know, you just happen to pass it at the right time, and it just you smell the fire, you hear it, but you don't see anything.
Yeah,
you know,
or even like John's like his frequency is in tune with that, and then when John's out there, because it seems like, because I've heard his stories, it seems like he's attracting all this stuff. So
yeah, that's true. So it's just he just happened to be in that right moment where that right area and moment where
it's like when you hear about people.
Yeah,
you hear of people saying like the pterosaurs and stuff like that, like the flying dinosaurs, and they see them all of a sudden they're just gone. It's like a, what do they call it? Like a imprinted memory into on the earth or whatever. Like maybe it's that's interesting. Yeah, and I know with all my things, a lot of my friends and that they say, because I'm of indigenous descent. Like I think I'm not like full blown Aboriginal, but I'm classed as Aboriginal. So it was my great grandma. She was the last like purebred Aboriginal lady, and a lot of my friends have said you're probably picking up on these things because of that, of your connection to the land and stuff like that.
Your ancestors, right?
Yeah.
To watch over you. That's awesome.
I see stuff all the time. Like my missus gets the shit. She's sorry for swearing, but she gets over it.
You can say fuck and shit all.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can speak then because that's usually my favourite word. So But yeah, so she gets annoyed because everywhere we go, I'm like, look at this, and she's like, oh my god. She rolls her eyes like, come on. It'll be like, I smoke cigarettes, so I'll go out at say 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed and have my last smoke, and I'll see a light go through the sky, and it's not a satellite or it's not I'll jump on my phone and look on the flight tracker, and all of a sudden you'll be going across the sky, say from left to right, and all of a sudden it goes right to left, gone. And I'll be like, get out of here, quick, come and have a look. And she's like, oh my god, I'm not coming out for some light you're seeing in the sky. I'm like, but you can see that. And she's like, yeah, you can. She's like, I see it too. I'm like, well, that's all right, I'm not crazy. That's the main reason I say it. I'm like, look, can you see this? Can you hear this? Like, it's not me.
She sounds like a good lady, John.
You know what I mean? Like, she's got to put up with a lot.
John, she sounds like a really good lady because she's putting up with you.
Yeah, that's it. She's got to put up with it all. But she thinks it's all interesting too, and that too. But yeah, she's like, oh my god, give it a break. I'm like, I'm just checking to make sure I'm not going insane. Like I'm not making things up in my head.
I need affirmation. I need confirmation that I am not insane. Like, are you seeing this? Yeah.
So that was my first encounter, and like I said, I didn't even know what yowies were before then, and that just opened up. That was the first little dig into the rabbit hole.
So did it help on your second sighting on the yowie, or not sighting, but your incident? Did this help you knowing about it?
No, well, the second one, it was actually like so it was about when was it? So it was 2018. I had it, so a while ago, and this had happened out of nowhere. I hadn't had any more encounters or anything. Like, in between my first yowie encounter, I'd seen a couple of black panthers, and we don't have black panthers over here. Their classes not being here, but I've seen 3 now and seen a cub and stuff, and a lot of people report them, but I'd never heard anything about yowies or never seen anything. And it was just after my son was born, and I made going into summertime, I had time off because my son was born, and I love me fishing. And I said to me missus, look, I want to go fishing while I'm off, but she's like, well, you got to help me with bub, blah, blah, blah. And so my son was my second child, and so she's like, you got to help me. So I made the plan with her, right, I'll go at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's dark, fish. I'll get to where I want to go, fish, and then I've got me, say, an hour paddle back, and I'll be home by, like, say, 8 o'clock. Is that good? You just can have a bit of a sleep in. And she was happy with that. So I was cheering. So every day for 3 weeks, I'd get up at 3 in the morning and go fishing until then, get home and help them. And so I've gone to this spot, and it was, it was weird. It was around it must have been, no, it was 2019, sorry, because it was around the time we had the big bushfires. And I've gone to this spot. I'd been there 3 days in a row, and I was going there, like, I'd catch 20, 30 fish a day, and then go back the next day and catch another 20, 30 fish. And our rivers, you fish somewhere like that, say, for an hour, and you catch so many fish that they're shut down for like 3 or 4 days. You won't catch another fish. They're real picky over here, the Australian bass. Mm-hmm. So I've gone back, and on the third day, I'd gotten out and got down to the water, got all my stuff in my kayak, jumped in there, and I rolled a smoke up, like, because I smoke rollies. And, and as I rolled it, and I just went to flick me lighter to light it, and something actually come smashing out of the bush towards me. I'd never heard anything like it. And I was still sitting right on the bank, like I was holding onto a branch off the tree right next to the bank to hold me still while I rolled the smoke. Mm-hmm. So this thing's come running out, and it would have stopped from probably an arm's length of me. So right on the edge of the bank. And I freaked. I had a headlamp on. I looked up, and there was nothing there. And but the way it ran out, like, it was, I've trained racehorses and always been around cows and that. It was the biggest sounding thing I've ever heard. And the scariest part was that where it's come running out of, I'd actually walked through that bush to get into the water.
Parked behind that?
Yeah, so I'd parked up on the flat spot, walked down into the bush, and then hopped into the river. It was a real prick of a spot. Like, you put the kayak in the water first and then sort of climb down the bank holding onto this tree branch and then hop into the kayak. So I'd gone for all that, set it up. I was probably in the water for about 10 minutes before this had happened. And yeah, so as soon as I flicked the lighter, it come running out, whatever it was. And yeah, it smashed through the bush and stopped like that close to me. And like I said, I lifted my head up, couldn't see anything. Mm-hmm. And I freaked, and I pushed off the edge of the bank with me paddle and floated out to the middle of the river. And I was looking around, and I was freaking out. And once I got there, I sort of got me bearings and realised where I was. I realised I always carry a little spotlight, a little rechargeable spotlight torch with me, and you turn that on, it just lights everything up. It's like a light bar, but like a little handheld torch. And I just realised I could hear this sort of weird noise in my ear, and it still does me head into this day. It was sort of like it's like the predator noise. So the noise the predator makes, but like, say, if you were to do it yourself, I could just hear this like that noise in my head, and I was like, what the hell's going on? So eventually, after about 5 minutes, I got the courage, and I paddled right over to the bank again, and I held onto the grass, stood up in my kayak, and I was shining the torch where this thing had run out at me, and there was nothing there. There was not one thing. And it freaked the crap out of me, and I paddled back out into the middle, and I was sort of paddling around in circles, and this whole time, like, I could still hear this noise in my ears. And so I've gone back to the bank and had another look around, and I thought, you know what, like, it was close to houses, like, it's probably 500 metres and you're at, like, a housing estate and stuff. Wow. So I was like, maybe if I yell real loud, whatever it is, it'll run out of the bush. Like, I might spook it out. Say it was a cow or something, you're yelling in the middle of the night, and freak it out, and it might run off, and I'll get a sight of it so I know what it was. And as I went to yell, I couldn't physically yell. There's, like, I was going, and there was no sound coming out. And a lot of people have said, oh, you're just shit scared. I was like, well, I've had this happen to me. I've paddled back, and I was standing up in my kayak at the bank looking around to see what it was. If I was that scared, do you think I could have physically made myself do that? And that's when one of the guys said, maybe you got hit with infrasound.
I was just thinking that. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Infrasound.
So, because everybody responds differently to it. So, I mean, you're not able to speak. I mean, because I've heard like, you know, elephants and tigers, they are known to have infrasound, and they freeze like their prey. So I was wondering if that was like their way of keeping you to vocalize and ask for help or something. So.
Yeah, I've heard of like the tigers doing it when, like, they got the howler monkeys up in the trees and they do their growl that's with the infrasound, and the monkeys don't make any noise, and that's how they can sneak through the bush and get their prey as well.
Right.
But it was weird. It was like, because there's houses and, like, a farm around and that, obviously whatever this thing was maybe didn't want me to make noise, but nothing ever happened. But I paddled around, like, this was probably 4:30. I paddled around for nearly an hour and a half in the middle of the river. I couldn't get out and run to my car because it was the bush that I just walked through.
Yeah, I was there.
And where that spot is there, you got no service on your phone either. So I'm like, oh no, something's going to go wrong here. And I paddled around till the sun come up. There was a few times I heard movement in the bush, but at one stage I heard further up the river, like a duck was going off and stuff. But then I heard the noise, and for ages I couldn't work out what it was. And it turns out there were chital deer there. They're the real little deer. I don't know if you guys have got chital deer over there, but the real little ones, and they're sort of up further at a farm. But they were making weird noises and run off through the bush while I was still paddling around. So maybe whatever this creature was might have moved up towards them, or I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to explain the noise that I heard. It was the closest thing I can say is like the Predator noise, like from the movie Predator.
So it was like resonating in your ears, not around you. It was just that is
well,
weird.
it sounded like I could hear it. Yeah, I could hear it, like, but it wasn't coming from anywhere. Like it was,
because
it's so hard to explain. Like,
I was just kind of thinking that, like, it may have just been watching you as you got out of your vehicle and got your kayak and then walked all the way down. Yeah, and it was just watching
whatever
you.
It was. And it would have been laying there, probably in the bush. It might have been sleeping, or just
So I've actually interviewed someone before that was sitting in the area that was doing like Bigfoot research out in East Texas, and he lit up a cigarette and inhaled it, and as he did it, he heard like a really guttural growl. Yeah, and so whenever you told me that about you lighting your rollie and you did it, and because like the bushfires, that's kind of hit home with me on that one. So that's kind of interesting. So,
well, that's what someone said too. Like, it was obviously they seen the flame with the bushfires. Like it burnt millions and millions of hectares of land. And one of the main, like, because there was about 3 massive fronts, and one of the main ones was probably about 25, 30 kilometres from where I was. It's the Blue Mountains. That's where all our Yowie sightings come from, up there. And that fire actually come down through the bushland and that, and it probably got to about 10 kilometres, 5 kilometres from where I was. So a lot of the people said, like one of the guys said, maybe that Yowie was there at that time because it had escaped the fires. And seeing you flick that lighter, trying to light a cigarette, not knowing that you were lighting a smoke, maybe thought I was trying to start a fire.
Right.
And that's when it's come out and bluff charged me to stop me. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, he's trying to protect its grounds and stuff. Did you smell anything like any pungent? Like
no, nothing at all. And that's what got me. Like, I was like, I've walked probably within 30 to 60 centimeters of this creature to get into the river here. And it obviously didn't want to get me because if you seen the position, you got to get in to climb down this bank, holding onto this branch to get in the kayak. If he wanted to get me, it would have got me then. You know what I mean? Like, I was vulnerable. Like, no one around, nothing there. No one would have heard me. Like, bang, could have got me. But
it was probably checking you out, because I'm thinking if it didn't have the pungent odor, and I'm just I'm spitballing here. If it didn't have the pungent odor, it could have been like a juvenile that maybe got kicked out of its group and was just trying to get its own area, and it saw you and was just watching you, and then maybe wanted to bluff charge you and get you out of the area and get you down the river or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking, but that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how big the thing was is too. Like, I never heard it leave the area, and that's what the scariest thing was I couldn't get out and go to the car because it charged me, and like I said, I didn't see it, but one of the guys said maybe it laid down, it charged out and laid down because it was sort of, the bank was up higher than me, so it could have been sitting there right next to me, or it just bluff charged me and then sort of ducked off to the side and I missed it. But I never heard any movement until like the sun come up, and I thought I heard something move up further, but that's when the deer started making noise.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was massive. The way it come out of the bush, I would have heard it tiptoeing out of there, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people said maybe it was still standing there, because a lot of people talk about, like, Bigfoot, like, cloaking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but that's another suggestion someone had for me. Like,
yeah, I mean that's possible. I mean, because I've talked to a lot of Native American people, and they certainly believe it. It's not it's not our thinking, but we try to hear everybody out and try to hear what they're going, because I've heard people say, like, this thing was so massive and it like stepped into the bush or the woods, and the woods swallowed it up, and it's kind of hard to, because like some of the trees in these Texas are not very thick, and so for this thing to just dive into the woods and it disappears, just one of those weird things. So
didn't we talk to somebody that said that since we're talking about predator, there was like a Bigfoot, like they just saw, like it was like cloaked, but you can see like the outline of it, and then the trees were moving with it, and it was just like a predator.
I mean, because a lot of people believe that Bigfoots, Yowies, whatever, are like interdimensional, and it's not, like I said, it's not our belief. But we hear people's eyewitness reports, and I just listen to them, and they believe that they see something, and that's just, I'll just say that. So I mean, but that was interesting. Well, that's the thing.
It's hard too, because I'm the same as you. Like, I think they're a flesh and blood creature, but then you hear all these reports, and you can't sort of say, "Oh no, that's bullshit,"
right?
Because I've had an encounter with a Yowie and a Dogman that don't exist. So if they can exist in UFOs and that can exist, why can't they be like that? So it sort of gets me. And my way of thinking is, I think there's both. So there's the flesh and blood, because I hate the way everyone fights between flesh and blood and the paranormal, like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
My way of thinking is there's flesh and blood creatures that we're seeing, and then maybe these other encounters are with a spirit or a ghost of a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I always say that too.
We see ghosts and that. We see ghosts of people. See ghosts of horses, even. You know what I mean? Like, so what's to say that's why the Bigfoot disappeared walking across in front of the car? It's just because they've seen a ghost of the Bigfoot. You know what I mean? And that that helps explain it for me, and that's my way of thought. But I could be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but it would explain a lot of things like that, like disappearing or just vanishing, or like
especially like ones that are like near the ravine. It's like a bunch of water. It's a current, so it just full body it, and like apparition of it, and then they hear it, and then infrasound, whatever, the smell, it's all right there, and then they disappear. They walk real quick, and then they're gone. Like, where did he go?
I mean, I've always said that too. I said, well, if it's why can't they be a Bigfoot ghost?
So, I mean,
because I've done 20 years of Bigfoot research, John, and I've did 10 years of a paranormal case director. So I've seen both. I've done both, and so I always take, like, now I take a EMF reader with me whenever I go to the field, and because I think infrasound and EMF are similar, and they have similar things. Like, not everybody does the same thing. I mean, everybody. Some people get nauseated. Some people, like you said, are not able to talk. Some people, get headaches or lightheaded or whatever. So.
Even people get bleeding noses and stuff. It's sort of like everything. Like, one thing affects someone this one way, and then another person not at all. Like, it's just it was so hard to explain. Like, even the noise and that, but it's crazy. Like I said, I think they're flesh and blood, but you never know. Like,
I was going to ask you, did you submit these reports to the ARY?
I just posted on their forum. I never did like an interview with them or anything like that.
Okay.
But so it's on the forum, and I think I've had that, and then I had another encounter at the same place about 12 months later. If you want me to tell you about that.
I'm interested in these one right here. I'm like rubbing my hands together right now. so
after that, like that first encounter at this river spot, I stopped getting up at 5:30 in the morning, like getting on the river and fishing at 5:30 in the morning and stuff like that. It was after that, it was strictly daytime fishing. Like, I couldn't go out in the dark. It scared the crap out of me that much. And
I don't blame you.
I'll quickly add, before, when I got home after it happened, I'd realised the whole time I had my GoPro playing, like recording. And I got home and I was like, oh my God, I had the GoPro going. I got home and it's still to this day is the only clip that's ever been corrupt on my GoPro. So whether the infrasound or whatever it was affected it, but I've still got it on my old GoPro. It's still sitting there. It just says corrupt. I've tried everything I possibly can to fix the file, and it takes up the 20 minutes it was recording for on the GoPro, but then you put it on the computer and it says 0 megabytes. So it still physically takes up space, but then it's
gone.
Not there, you know what I mean?
That is weird.
It's a little creepy.
Yeah. I've sent it to a few people, and they said, no, it's fried. I said, but it still takes up space. Like, I can take the SIM card out, like take that memory card out and put a different one in, and it's got the full time. Put that one back in, and I can I've deleted everything else off that SD card, and it still says it's taken up 20 minutes space. Like, wow. And there's nothing there. Like, it's just fried it. But yeah, so I've gone back to this spot. I went during the day, and I went with my brother-in-law because I like I said, I was catching so many fish there, but after that I never went back. It scared the crap out of me. So we're going back one afternoon. We're like, oh, yeah, this is cool. We'll go to a different section. So we paddled, we pulled up. It was probably 50 metres down from where I parked the original encounter. It's sort of a little weir. So it was a bit easier to get into the water with my brother-in-law with our 2 kayaks and that. And we paddled down the river and we're catching heaps of fish. It was awesome. And out of nowhere, there was just a freak storm come through, like torrential rain, lightning and thunder, and we had to hide under the trees to not drown and not get hit by lightning. But it went on for about an hour and a half, and we didn't want to move because all our rods are graphite and that, and we thought we're going to get hit by lightning. So by the time it had stopped, we started coming back, and it was starting to go dark, and it scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh, great. And we were fishing along, and my brother-in-law's good. He was talking to me, and that he knew I was a bit scared, and sort of just chatting along, having a fish, catching a few fish and that. And out to my, I was on the right side of the river, and my brother-in-law was on the left side. And out to my right in the bush line, I heard something move, and I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. And thought straight away, oh, kangaroo or wombat, doesn't matter. And then I started going up the river, and whatever it was following me up through the bush. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I said to my brother-in-law, I said, there's something over here, blah, blah, blah. And so we kept paddling along, and you'd still hear it moving through the bush, but nothing, wasn't trying to scare us or anything. And couldn't smell anything. There was nothing going on bar this thing moving. And as we come around this bend, my brother-in-law, he sort of went, oh, shit, what's that? And his headlamp had actually hit. There was a big group, I don't know what you call a big group of deer. Like, I don't know if they're a pod or whatever you call them.
I forgot what you call them. Hold on.
Yeah. But there was about 50 of them, and they were all huddled. It was like a ball. Like, they were all together, like, pushing against each other. And they weren't even looking at us. They were looking across the river towards whatever this thing was moving through the bush. And it was like it was like we weren't even there. They hadn't even noticed us. And we got to... Yeah, like they were just fixed on whatever was over, and the way they were pushed together, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Not looking at us, and we sort of got to about 5 metres away from them, and then all of a sudden one sort of looked at us, seen us, and took off, and then they all just ran off through the bush. And after that, we didn't hear anything across the river. So we don't know whatever this creature was. Like, it was in the same area, so it might have been this same Yowie.
Yowie, yeah.
And we don't know if it mightn't have been following me at all. It might have been just... right time, right place, and it was walking up because it's seen the deer. It might have been trying to manoeuvre its way up the river to get over to get the deer. So, it was freaky.
It's called a herd of deer.
A herd, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to say herd, and then it's just cows, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, sweet. So that happened, and we got back to the car and got out of there, and that scared the crap out of me.
Did you tell your brother-in-law about the other incidents?
Yeah. Yeah, he'd known about it before.
What did he say about it?
He goes, oh, that's weird. Like, he's good. He believes in it all and that. Like, he doesn't go out his way looking for stuff like that. Like, it's good. He just sort of supports us and that. He believes in there's more than just us out there in the bush, and it's good. But it was good to be out with him because, like I said, I crapped myself. I hadn't been back to that spot. So that had happened. That was in December 2019 at the start of the month. So after that, I went, stuff it, I'm not going to this river anymore. And it's crap because where I live, I'm about 40-minute drive from Sydney. And this river's like I can see the river looking out my window now. Like, it's that close, and I can go to different spots within 5-10 minutes, and I've got good spots to go fishing. But after that, I went, I'm not fishing here anymore, and I actually found another river system. It was about half an hour drive from me, but still, it's probably about 30 minutes from Sydney as well, so it's closer to Sydney, just sort of down the coast, like different direction. But I found this spot, and I started going there, and the fishing was perfect. There was none of this worrying about, oh, what's in the bush here, because I was nearly right in the middle of the main city. Like, there's something like 300,000-400,000 houses around this river. So I was like, it's good, I feel safe, if I need to yell, someone will hear me, like, and yeah, and I thought, how good's this? It was about 2 weeks after the encounter is when I had my first encounter with Dogman. Yeah, and I didn't know it was a Dogman. I'd been to this spot fishing and thought it was awesome. I'd been there one morning, I think it was 2 days later or something, I went and I was paddling up this river and I thought I could see something at the top of this tree. And I don't know if you got over there, but we have this stuff that's spread by the birds called mistletoe, that whatever it is, I don't know, like there's mistletoe trees and that, but this mistletoe over here, say a bird will crap on a tree and they've got the seed from it, and it actually takes over the whole tree, and it'll strangle the tree that it's in, and it actually grows like all over it and actually kills the original tree, and it sort of takes over itself. And the way they're sort of like a big knot, and then they had the leaves, like the big leaves coming off it. And I thought, oh, look at that, that's a massive mistletoe knot at the top of that tree. And I got a bit closer, I was like, it looks like that mistletoe's got a face in it. Like, this thing was massive. It would have been 3 foot wide, this big knot. I've never seen them so big, and 3 foot high at the top of this big, massive gum tree. And I thought nothing of it. Turned to the right from this big tree and went up this little creek fishing. And I come back out, and I looked at the same tree and went, that knot's gone. Like, what the hell? So, turns out it was obviously a creature up the top of the tree, and it was looking at me. Because I said, like, it looked like a mistletoe knot that had a face on it, and I was like, what the hell?
What was the color? What was the color of it?
It was right on sunrise, so it looked black to me, but so did everything else around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could have been maybe a brown or even just still black, but yeah, it was massive. So I thought, stuff this, and the next couple of days later I went over there again. I went to a different section. I went through there and it was pretty cool, and this spot was awesome. Like, didn't have anything going on, there was nothing around, it was real peaceful, and yeah, didn't have any encounters with anything. But I did find, I have to send them over to you, but I found a structure, and I first thought, oh, it's nothing, it's just sort of a tree's fallen over in a flood and pushed up against another one. But when you actually look at it, there's all these branches are all folded together, and it's sort of like it's a weird, massive, big tree structure I found along the river. Same thing though, I thought it was nothing. It just looked like a thing. It just, like when we've had the floods, it just looked like a spot that all the branches had got caught up. But after you look at the photos, you're like, nah, that's been put like that. I did see another spot. I stopped went to take a piss in my kayak. I paddled up the edge, and there was it looked like a little nest. There was an opening in all these vines and that, and I don't think I took a photo of that because I thought it's nothing. And yeah, so I was going back over this morning that I had the first encounter with the Dogman. I was going over there, and when I go, I always take my wallet. I've always got my wallet because I've got my fishing license and everything on it. And you get caught over here without your fishing license, they can take your kayak and all your rods and all that, because they think you're illegally fishing and stuff.
Yeah. So
I've always got that. And that morning I'd got up, and because I was saying I hadn't been fishing in the dark, I'd leave my place about 5. So I'd half an hour drive, but I'd stop at Macca's, grab a coffee, grab something to eat, and then get there and set up. And by the time I was set up, ready to go in the water, it was daylight. So I was happy like that. So I got halfway to Macca's. It's only about 10 minutes from my house, and realised, crap, I haven't got my wallet. So I went home, got my wallet, and I was like, didn't think anything of it. And I got halfway there, and I was thinking about, my father-in-law was telling me about a spot that him and his brother and his friends used to go fishing. They used to go swimming, sorry. I was like, I'll have to do a trip there one day. And this was in this new river system I'd started going to. I'd actually got to the spot that I'd been where I seen the structure. Like I said, I didn't think any of it. None of all these things I'd been seeing over there, I didn't think any of it until I've had these encounters. But I got to that spot, and it's sort of, you got to go into a bit of a national park, and they got gates, but they're never locked. And this morning I actually got to this spot that I went to previously. The gates were locked. I was like, oh crap, what's going on here? So I jumped on the phone and I looked up this spot that my father-in-law was telling me about, and it was only about 5-minute drive from where I was. So I was like, stuff it, I'm going over there. That's awesome. Perfect opportunity. I'll go there. I was going to do it another day, but so I've turned up, got to this spot, and as I was driving through the gates, my Spotify on my phone glitched out. And like I said to everyone, this song started playing, but it was like it was halfway through a song, like it was like in a chorus. Started playing, the words were along the lines of, this, like it said, this is a bad idea, but it was like a song playing.
That's weird.
And I looked at me, and I looked and went, what the hell is that? Like, what's this song? Because I was playing like my private playlist on Spotify, and then it just stopped and went back to the song that I was on. And same thing, I sort of didn't think anything of it. I sort of went, huh? And then sort of kept driving off. So I pulled up, got my kayak out, set everything up. I got halfway down to the water and realised, crap, I forgot my GoPro. So I ran back up to the car, got that, got down to where the water was, and it was like you had to climb down rocks and get into the water. It was a nightmare. It took me about half an hour from my car down to actually get into the water. So I've gotten into the water and went to paddle, and it was that shallow that me bum of the kayak was sitting on the back, like sitting on the ground. So I had to drag myself through the rocks and the sand, and finally got to like the big open part of the river. And it was a perfect day. Like, it was the nicest water I've ever seen. And the first surface lure I cast out, I think it was like 5 or 6 bass at the same time were hitting it. Like, they were hitting each other trying to take it. And I was like, no one's ever been fishing here before. I'd never seen anyone there, and my father-in-law and that are all the same. They've never seen anyone fishing there. I was like, this is like my own little oasis. How good's this? And the nightmare to get into the water, the average kayak fisherman's not going through that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's sort of a river that you'd think, oh, I'm not going fishing there. It's a bit gross. So I could have been the first one down there in a kayak ever to fish. I was like, every cast I did, though, was the same. I'd have 5 or 6 fish, hook one of them, pull it in, chuck it back out, cast in the same spot, another 5 or 6 fish. Like, everywhere I went, it was nuts. But so I'm paddling along. I'm like, how good's this? This is the best. I've got my own little oasis, and this place is just perfect. And I think it was the left side, through the bush, I seen this weird grey flash, and I didn't think like I said, a lot of the stuff, I didn't think anything of it until I've had these encounters. I've seen this grey flash, and I thought, oh, it's just me eyes playing up, and my sunnies on, and the sun's hit me, that's nothing. And I'd seen up further around the river, it sort of went round to the right, and I seen this big massive rock, and I thought, how good's that? I'm going there, there's going to be a fish at this rock for sure in the water. And every now and then the cockatoos would go a bit crazy in the trees, but if you guys have seen cockatoos are that loud, they do it all the time for no reason. So I thought nothing of that too, and I've got down to this rock, and I've cast at it, and dead set, as soon as the lures hit the water, a fish smashed it. So I'm fighting the fish, and at this stage, like I pulled it in, got rid of it, I had another cast, just past it, and I hooked another fish. And when I've hooked this other fish, all of a sudden, out to my right, something through the bush, it was like a bulldozer was just running through the bush at me, and you could hear it, like each footstep it was taking, it was running on 2 feet. It was 100% 2 feet, you could hear it, and it was just, you could just hear branches get smashed. It was like, must have been just swinging its arm, just smashing the bush out of the way, and the cockatoos and that went absolutely ballistic. And it stopped, it must have stopped just out of sight, like I couldn't see it, like, the bush was that thick there, and it just started roaring at me. And that roar, like, I still wake up some nights to hearing that roar in my sleep, like in a dream or something. It still wakes me up. It's the most terrifying sound I've ever heard in my life. And it stood there, and it was roaring and roaring, and I was getting the hooks out of the fish, and the more I was stuffing around, the more it was like getting a bit louder. And I thought, oh, I've just got to get out of here. And I pulled the last hook out, and as I threw the fish into the water, this thing just went to another level, and it was just screaming as loud as it could, and it was smashing branches out of the way. And I was like, I'm dead here. the river was actually, this section I'd got to, it had narrowed right down. And I reckon if I had a clear run without trees or that, I probably could have jumped from the edge of the bank and landed in my kayak. So this is when I freaked, and I was like, what do I do here? I've got no weapons. I've got no phone service or anything. Like, I didn't even have a knife on me. I think I had a pair of bent-nose pliers. I'm like, I'm dead here. And I heard something in my head say to me, go now or you'll die. And I've spoke to a few people. I said, it wasn't my thoughts. Like, it was a voice I've never heard before. And he just said, go now or you'll die. And it was like I was in autopilot. I just slowly paddled around and just started paddling home. Like, just pretending like I didn't see anything, I couldn't hear anything. I was just absolutely crapping myself. I'm like, I'm dead here. This thing's going to get me. And I got probably 50 metres away from where this thing was still roaring at me, and it just stopped. And I kept paddling, and I was like, great, I'm dead. I've got no service. I've gone to a spot that I didn't tell my missus where I was going to because the gates were locked. I was like, something happens to me here, they're never going to find me because they're not going to look for me here. And I got back, and I was like, I'm stuffed here. I've still got half an hour of getting back up to the car with my kayak and that. I'm going to die for sure. I've got now chucked all my stuff up on the big rock, and I'd grabbed the kayak. I was going back down to get the kayak, so I turned around, and as I turned around, something actually hit one of my fishing rods and knocked it over. And that's when I freaked out more because I was like, whatever this thing was, it's followed me. Like, it wasn't the rod didn't fall over by itself. You actually, because it heard the bang, I turned around, the rod was wobbling, and then it fell over. So someone had got thrown at me. So I grabbed my stuff, and usually I just drag my kayak because it's bloody heavy. So I just drag it up through the bush and that, and I thought I'm dead here for sure. By the time I get all this, I end up chucking it on my shoulder and just running through the bush because I thought if I'm dragging the kayak, it's that loud, I'm not going to hear anything sneaking up on me.
Right.
But that half an hour back up to the car, I think I'd done it in about 15 minutes. I just sprinted with my kayak, got up to the car and threw all my stuff in the back of the ute, and I was just shaking. I think I sat there for about an hour in the car. I couldn't drive, couldn't talk or anything. And I actually wrote a message. I got on the internet and I was looking up different sounds of animals, like Australian animals in the bush, mating calls, everything, because I was just still that petrified I couldn't drive. Looking up koalas, what their mating calls were, everything, all these different noises, couldn't find anything like what I had heard. And the only thing I could find was, it sounded like a lion, but then it was weird because it would roar, it'd go, oh, and it sounded like when the lions do that big oh noise. Mm-hmm. But then when it took a breath in, so it'd go, oh, and then it'd go, oh, but the breath in sounded nearly like a grizzly bear. And that's obviously its chest cavity, and that was that big, and its lungs were that strong that when it took that breath in, it actually sounded like a separate roar. So yeah, that's close I could find was a lion and a bear. I was like, we don't have lions and bears over here. I don't know what the hell that was.
I was about to ask that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we got nothing like that. Like, nothing at all. And I've never heard anything like it. And that noise, like that voice in my head saying, go now or you'll die. Like, it was like a command. I don't know. I listened, you know what I mean? Like,
you think that was your spirit guide or your ancestors telling you that? Yeah,
well, that's what one of my good mates, he said that would have been your ancestors coming through to you, because I was in the bushland it was actually part of the bush that my family come from. Mm-hmm. And he said that was them telling you. But then he said also it might have been them, it might have been that creature that was in the bush. Yeah. It might have been, because people have said about Dogman being able to talk to people and stuff, but like I said, I don't look into that much. But yeah,
Did you physically see like this Dogman?
No, not this time. I didn't see it. But at that time, I thought it was a Yowie. And it's like, great, I'm stuffed here. Now I've got this river, I can't come over here. And same thing, I got back to the car and went, oh my God, I had the GoPro recording the whole time. And I've actually got that on my YouTube channel. I've got the recording from that. And you can sort of hear it. If you know what you're listening for, you can sort of hear it. But because the cockatoos were going off, you can't really hear it. Mm. Yeah, but I've sent it to me. The GoPro audio is so bad.
I was just about to say that the GoPro, the audio sucks. But
it's so good for like close ups, like your own voice and that. But once you get that 10 meters plus, rat shit. Like, so it's just muffled mess. But I sent it to my friend, and I'll have to send you the audios. He's sort of cleaned it up a bit, and you can hear it in that. And
Please
you hear
do.
that, oh, and it's like, oh, like it's nuts. But yeah, so I've got back and went, oh my God, I've recorded it. And you gonna say?
What really gets me is that gray flash you were talking about.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting because I actually see it again with my next encounter. And that's why I said I didn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got back to the car and went, oh my God, I've recorded it. And like, I listened to it and I could hear the roar, and I went straight home and I said to my missus, can you hear this? And she's like, yeah, that's weird. That sounds like a lion or something. And I said, yeah, I don't know. It was whatever it was massive. So then, yeah, I had another encounter at the same river, but it was probably, as the crow flies, probably about 10 kilometres away. But how big these creatures are, it wouldn't be too far for them. So I went back to the first spot I went to, where I hadn't had any issues and that. So instead of going right up the river to where that was, I went left, and it was towards like a big major city. I thought, I'm going this way. I'm going for a fish, and I just bought a new kayak. Like, it was like the day after I had that first encounter with a Dogman. I bought a new one, so I was like, I'm going here. It's out in the open. There's nothing around. I want to try this new kayak out and just have a bit of fun. So yeah, I went over there, and that's where you've seen the photos I got. So
yes, I posted that earlier today, like around 6 or Central time here too. So, but yeah.
So that was actually Boxing Day. So it was only 3 days after that first encounter. So in the space of like 3 weeks, I've had 3 encounters with 3 creatures, and
wow.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to go fishing much since because we had lockdowns and all that. But that morning, it was Boxing Day. I got there. It was a bit later. I got there. It was about 6 o'clock when I got there and unloaded and that. So it was probably 6:30 when I got in the water. I thought, I'm going to leave it till it's fully daylight. Nothing's going to happen to me now. Because that first encounter with a Dogman, it was probably about 7:30. So I thought, if I go down here, I'm around houses and that, nothing's going to happen. And I jumped in and fishing away, and it was perfect, man. I caught a couple of fish. Nothing going on at all. Didn't even have a thought in my head of, oh my God, I've got to worry about stuff. And I'd probably been fishing about 10 minutes, and I heard a branch snap. And that was me. I was like, what the hell was that? And I sat there and I went, nah, don't be an idiot. Like, it's an animal in the bush. There's nothing around. Just go for it. Go and have some fun. So I started paddling off. And I'd got a little bit down the river, and I'd realise after a while I heard a noise, and I'd realise every time I took a stroke with the paddle, I'd hear something move. Like, it was like timing its steps for my paddles with the kayak paddle.
It was matching it?
And I was
kind of like matching it?
Yeah, so I'd paddle 5 times, and it would take 5 steps. And it was big, man. Like I said, I've trained race horses, and I know the sound of a big mammal. Like, we'd take them in the bush. If you had a crazy horse, like, you'd go into the bush with them, get around all the animals around the bush and that, and you can get that craziness out of them and settle them down. They're not so flighty and stuff. So we've been in the bush with horses, in the sand, on the racetrack, everything. I know the noise of a big horse, a 500-kilo horse, going through any sort of terrain. And this thing, it would have been anything around 500 kilos, just the steps it was taking. And obviously it was that big, and it was stalking me. Now when you think about it, like, I was being stalked, and for it to be that loud when it was trying to be quiet, like, it was a big creature. So I'd take a couple of paddles, I'd hear it, and I'd stop. And out to my right, I seen a grey flash again. I was like, what the hell? What is that? Yeah. And that just had me. I was like, what is that? So anyway, I'd paddle another 5 or 6, and you'd hear it take 5 or 6 steps. I'd stop, nothing. It was like quiet. There wasn't even birds or anything. Take another paddle. I got probably a kilometre down the river, and out to my left, actually, I seen something. I didn't want to look at the bush or anything because I was just petrified, because I was like, if I head down this way, I'm going to come out, like, there's a boat ramp and there's all shops and everything. I'll get down there, and then I'll ring me missus or me brother-in-law, someone ring me, and they can pick me up from there, because I'm not going back to the car, because this creature was actually on the same side of the river as where I parked. So I'm heading down this way, and I'd got about 1 kilometre from my ute, and I seen something out the side of my eye in the bush. There's something black in the bush. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I took a couple of pictures of it, and then took another couple of paddles, didn't hear a noise. I was like, that's weird. So I paddled probably a couple of minutes down the river, and I pulled up. After I took them photos, I never heard one noise, never heard even a twig snap or anything. I was like, that's really odd. I pulled over, unlocked my phone, and went, what the hell is that? And that's when I seen what had taken the photos of. The black thing that I'd seen in the bush was the creature in them photos.
Yeah, like I was saying, I posted it on the Bigfoot Club page. So if anybody wants to go and look at that, that's I showed Steven that, like, I think it was last week. Mm-hmm. And what'd you think of it, Steven?
It's something. I mean, you can clearly see like a wolf ear, like the ears.
Yeah. Like a snout and ears.
Yeah. So like, go back to where you were saying, like, you know, you need to get out. Like, you heard that voice. Like, you need to leave. You know, I always incorporated the Dogman to be, as plainly to say it, a werewolf.
Yeah.
Or, you know, skinwalker or whatever. And whatever was telling you was probably like the human, like, that turned into it, the Dogman or whatever, was probably warning you, like, you need to leave. Because I can't control this. Whatever this is, this curse, I can't control it. This thing will eat you. Like,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So like, whatever infrasound or whatever, that's
admitting,
like, you know, like his final, I guess, inner thought was like, you need to leave. You need to leave now.
Yep.
So that makes my hair stand.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
John, I was gonna ask you. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's no lore of Aborigines, right, that have like the Dogman in it?
Nothing, man. Nothing at all.
Wow.
I've asked people, and there's no mention of them. There's even there's cave paintings and everything of Yowies from up to 100,000 years ago. There's cave paintings of them. There's even up in the top end of Australia, there's actually cave paintings of like black cats, which Aboriginal people from 80,000 years ago didn't have YouTube or anything to look up and see what a big black cat was or what a Yowie might look like. They drew what they've seen. You know what I mean? And we don't have a native big cat, so how'd they paint pictures of cats and Yowies and that unless they've actually seen them with their eyes? And not saying they're silly or that, but they can't make up a creature and draw a creature that they've never seen before.
Right.
So, but nothing about Dogman. And I honestly, like, to be fair, I thought Dogman was bullshit, hey? I used to see the videos and laugh about it and say, listen to this crap. This is just some crazy bloke over in America that's bored making up stories about werewolves. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was crap because you'd see a photo and they're like, look at the Dogman in the picture, and they'd have a red circle around an eyeball from like 600 meters away. And you're like, it's nothing. It's a leaf. Like, how can you even say that?
Yeah.
But when I seen them photos, I went, holy shit, this thing is real.
Good pictures. Really good pictures.
I've never seen anything like it, eh?
Yeah.
It's like, even my dad still rings me to this day, and he's like, man, I still get goosebumps looking at that photo you took. I said, yeah, imagine me, I go to sleep and I wake up and I see that face. Like, and what scared me the most is a lot of people have said, like, when people have a Bigfoot or a Dogman encounter and they see one, they're showing themselves so you don't see what else is going on.
Yeah.
So I was like, what else was there? For it to actually show itself to the point that I took a photo of it, what was it hiding? Or what was it not wanting me to see? Was there a female there or something that was trying to get my attention so I didn't see babies or whatever? But
you know,
so I was like, man, I could have been surrounded.
Whenever I first saw that photo, when you sent it to me, the first thing I thought about was Anubius, the deity for the Egyptian. That's the first thing I thought of whenever I saw that. Because it was black and you can see like a defined like snout and like ears and stuff like that. So it's the first thing I thought of. I don't know if you know who Linda Godfrey is. Do you know her? Or?
Yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah. She's
got a lot of books out about Dogman. She did the Beast of Bray Road.
Yep.
And so I think one of her books I was reading is called American Monsters. and she talks about her belief is that, and I'm kind of, whenever I hear a dog, because I don't get that much Dogman stuff like in text, but whenever I do, I try to listen. But I've heard her say that her theory is that, because like she believes that this is like supernatural. That's her belief. So she believes that these Dogmen come into sightings where Native Americans used to like either harvest or had fishing or had water roots or just had crops, and so these were like their deity or their, I guess, their spirit, that they would protect these areas. So I'm almost kind of wondering if like these areas that you're having these encounters, that these were either Aborigines areas that had crops or had like fishing holes, and that was like there's food, their number one food source, and it's just there to protecting it. So the gray flash, it almost kind of makes me feel like it's like, and I hate saying this, it's like portal, like a portal. It pops up and it just pops in, pops out. I don't know, because like in the States, I'm sure you've heard of like Vic Cundiff or the guy in like Michigan. I can't think of his name, but because like there's very little, and I'm if people want to correct me, I'm okay with that. But there's very little like tracking or like any hair left behind from Dogmen. Yeah. So exactly. I don't know. I was just wanted to. I thought of that whenever you were telling your story. So
yeah. Well, that's like I was saying. That bushland was actually where my people had actually come from. Mm-hmm. That's where they lived, and that's what I was saying. Like my mate said, maybe that was my ancestors saying that, coming to me and saying, "Go now, or you're going to die." Like I'd picked up from them,
right?
But like that could have been why this creature, when it ran through, it was just smashing stuff. When it could have got me, maybe that's why it didn't get me. It might have picked up that I'm indigenous and I was maybe allowed to be there, but it was still not happy I was there. You know what I mean? And there is a tradition that I didn't know about. Apparently, every year the Aborigine people would, their first fish they caught, they'd actually bury it in the banks to say thanks to the land for providing fish. And I didn't know that before, and I've never done that before. So maybe that creature knew that I hadn't
done it yet.
Done that, you know what I mean? Like, that could have been why they did it. They might have buried that, and then this thing that's in the bush didn't come and eat them, you know what I mean? Like, because it might have taken the fish. And then I've had someone else say, I think might have been Sarah even said, maybe the Dogman was angry because it went to another level when I chucked that fish back.
Yeah.
So maybe it had got the shits that I chucked the fish back in the water and not chucked it for it might have been coming to get the fish. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but like I said, I never believed in it. Dogman, I used to laugh about it and go, how funny is that? But that, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
I think that's
I can't find photos. Yeah, I can't find any photos on the internet that look anything like it, and it's just, it changed me. Like, right before, like, so this was just after Christmas 2019, right before COVID hit. And man, that was a big eye-opener with everything, all the crap that's going on in the world. Like, it was just a big eye-opener, hey, to know, hey, this thing's real and we're being told it's not. Like, what else is going on like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you attend any of the, I'm probably going to say this wrong, the summer solstice for Australia?
No, I didn't know about it. The same thing, I only just heard about that on Sarah's podcast, because we didn't know. We knew we had some Aboriginal in our family, but our like full of, I don't know how to say it without being rude, but the last one in our family that was pure 100% Aboriginal, her name was Guillain-Barré. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I don't know. Like, if you look at my podcast, I've done a thing. But she was one of the only ones that survived. There was a big massacre of the Aboriginal people. And she was one of the only ones that survived. So all her family and friends and that got killed. So, and then she got taken by the police and put into a children's home and all that. And then she come back, and then that's where we come from her. But my grandma's family, her mother left. So we didn't know anything about our heritage or anything from her side of the family, and that's where the Aboriginal had come from. So we didn't know anything about it, and my sister joined the Land Council to find out this stuff.
Wow.
And I had only just joined up about 6 months ago to now, so I didn't know about anything Aboriginal. Like, we grew up knowing we had some Aboriginal in us, but we didn't know it was so much and so important. And so now we're started to right into it now, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can, because you can't find any information. There's nothing.
Right.
Like they said, the stolen generation, they come in and took the kids off the parents and all that, and they lost everything. They lost all their knowledge. We lost all our knowledge of my grandma's side of the family from the massacre. All of them got wiped out bar one, you know what I mean? So,
right. I'm sorry to hear that.
a couple of, yeah, it's sad, but it happened all over Australia. It wasn't just one thing, but like they said, it was only 14 people that had died in the massacre, but I've heard from some really good sources it was up to 500 could have died.
Right.
Yeah.
So this lady was survivor, and that's where your family came from?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she was one of the only survivors from this, and it wasn't just the tribe she was from. Apparently there was a big meeting where all the tribes come together, because it was just after like the white people had come to Australia, and they were trying to work out a way to get on with them, because like if you listen to my podcast, there was a few fights and few of them got killed from either side of either parties. So all the tribes got together trying to work out a way to get around it and how to get on with the white people and stay safe and all that. And that's when the massacre happened. So it was like they waited for them all to get together and just maximum damage. So there's so many families over Australia that would have lost information, would have lost their whole, like I said, we didn't know we knew we were Aboriginal, but didn't have any information at all. Like, we lost so much knowledge and so many family members that we didn't even know we had, because so many got wiped out. So, but listening to the podcast, and I heard about the some assaulted, I didn't know about any of that, and that's crazy.
Yeah. Because it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, but it's like, if they wanted to go back to the original lifestyle of the Aborigines. It was like a rock or something. Like, I don't know that much about it. I've only heard it on Sarah's show, and it's like a rock, and it's like and the Aborigines people want to return life the way it was, or something like that, or okay,
well, it's Ayers Rock, which you guys might have heard of. Uluru. It's it's one of our landmarks in Australia if you look it up,
right?
And the Aboriginal people believe or everyone, even different cultures in that, believe that Uluru is actually the heart of the earth. Like, if there's a part of the earth that's a heart, and they reckon that's Uluru, and that's reckon all the energy comes from there, and everything like spiritual and that like began from this rock, you know what I mean? And they wanted to go back to do this meditation and that they were doing, and they weren't allowed there. Wow. That was the spin out, that they wouldn't let them, so they obviously knew that they could do good by doing it.
Yeah.
Those guys. And it makes a lot of sense, man, when you think about all the stuff that's happening and that, like, just knowing Yowies and Dogman and Bigfoot and all that exists, why can't that side of spiritual...
Yeah. I do a lot of paranormal stuff, and I do a lot of Bigfoot stuff, and I've done it for a long time, and so I've always felt that they were kind of connected in a way. So, I mean... But, back in like the 90s, and because I started like doing it like 99, 2000. But if you said that back then, man, you got crucified. You got crucified on the internet, and I mean nowadays, and people call it woo, to talk it that way.
Yeah.
But I talk to both people, the paranormal and cryptid stuff. So I mean, I don't care what people think of me. I don't give two shits about it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm
the same now, man.
I don't research that much anymore, but if people reach out to me, I'll help them. But I'm like, I'm more like, I want to reach people like you, and I want to bring it out. I want to bring people out that people don't know that much about, and I want to present them to the world. So, but yeah, I mean, I love these stories. I've listened to your podcast this past week. I think I got into the Yowies and the Dogman. I haven't got any further than that, but I started listening to it. So it was really...
they're a bit bodgy. I'm getting used to doing them. It's so hard to do it by yourself. Like,
it is.
You feel like a weirdo. You know what I mean? You're trying to talk, and then you don't like the way you sound because it's not how you speak when you talk to people. And
yeah.
That's why I'm going to start. I want to start do interviews and stuff like that, because it's so easy. Like, you sit here and we're having a chat like this, and we're on the other side of the world from each other, and you have so much fun. But you try and do it by yourself, and you just sound like an idiot. No matter how people will say, "Oh, you sound alright," I'm like, "No, I don't. I sound like a mad person."
Yeah. My mom will always say all the time, because you sound so good. I go,
yeah. I was gonna say, John, like, you already have an advantage over us because you have an amazing Australian accent. I think everybody, and any American will say, like, I wish I had, like, a British accent or Australian accent, like, stuff like that, because when we're talking, me and Robert, it's just like we kind of sound the same too.
Yeah.
So we're like, I guess we got the voice, but if I was able to really do an Australian accent and actually, like, talk that way, I would keep doing it.
Do it.
I would always say, like, Outback Steak. I can't even do it now. You put me on the spot. Like, from down under. Like, I just if I could do that, like, 24/7, I would.
19 meters in the bush. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're just like, I wish I had that accent.
Yeah, John, we're supposed to ask you if you know the Hemsworths at all. So.
Nah.
It's like,
they're cool.
No, none of
that. I don't know them.
I was gonna ask you the.
It'd be good. I wish I knew Thor.
Yeah,
it'd be right to take. Would be cool. I'd love to take Thor out with me while I'm looking for Dogman. I feel a bit safer because we're not allowed to have. We don't have guns and that over here, see? So I walk through the bush with a big knife. It'd be good to have him carrying the hammer along with him.
He's got Mjolnir with him, and he's just like, "No, I got you. I got you. Don't worry."
That's so funny.
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask, like, are the spiders really that, like, nonchalant over there? Y'all are so, like, there's spiders everywhere over there, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's a spider," and like,
they're
huge.
We got redbacks. I don't know if you guys have got redbacks over there. They're a black spider. They got a red bum on them, and
Black Widow.
They're some. I don't know if they're the same. They might look the same. I'm not sure. I have to look up. They might be the same species, but they're everywhere. In summertime, man, our house is brick. And every gap in the brick from the outside of summertime, unless you spray the property, there's a redback in them. And they won't kill you, but they'll make you sick. But if you have an allergy to them, they'll kill you. But you don't know if you've got an allergy to them until you get bitten. So.
Yeah, it is the Australian Black Widow.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
And they're everywhere, man. And, like, we'll be in the house even, and you go to move something, and you're like, how the hell did you even get in here? Like, they're everywhere.
Yeah, no.
Where I live too, like, we're in the town, and even last year, I think it was, my wife rang me up when I was at work screaming. There was a brown snake in the backyard, and we're not near any parks or anything. Like, somehow this snake had ended up in our backyard, and yeah, she was freaking out. I'm like, it's just typical for Australia. Like, you walk out the backyard, you get bitten by a snake, and you don't even live in the bush. Like,
right.
It's pretty crazy over here, but you get used to it.
Yeah, because I actually know somebody on Discord that I stream with, and she's a moderator for one of my I guess I can say friend streamers, and she's from Australia. I don't know where she's really like. Secretive. She's like, "Oh, I'm in Australia, but I don't want to say where I'm at." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fine, whatever." But I'm all like, she'll send me pictures on Discord of, like, the spiders, like, she finds in her house, and I'm all like, "Oh, why?" Like, because I've said that on one of the streams. I was like, "Oh, I hate spiders. I cannot." And she thought that was so funny, and she'll send me like, "Oh, look at the spider I came across today." And I think one of the spiders she did say was a redback. I said, that's a Black Widow. She goes, yeah, they're common here. And I'm all like, no.
And when you have a bit of rain over here, as soon as it heats up, they just, like, explode. They're everywhere. Like, you're checking your shoes before you go to work and that. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
But we have the funnel web, and it's even worse. They're big. I think they're sort of like, you've got mouse spiders over there. Mm-hmm. They're big, but they, like, if you get bitten by a funnel web, you can be dead within, like, 20 minutes.
Oh, Lord.
Like, your blood will coagulate and everything. Like, it just eats you from the inside. Like, and they're known to be around the house too. Like, they're just, everywhere you go, you kick a rock over and that. And now, but the worst is, I hate spiders. Like, I'm petrified by spiders. But a snake, like, I'll kill a snake like nothing. I pick up a shovel and a brown snake comes at me. It's like the third deadliest snake in the world, and I'll kill it easy. But a little spider jump on me, and I'll squeal and run to the bush where the dog man is. You know what I mean? Like, I hate spiders, but yeah, the snakes, they're everywhere too. And yes, everything you hear, it might be over exaggerated a bit, but most of it's true with the animals and the spiders and the snakes and that. It is.
John, I was going to ask you, are you doing any research? Like, are you going out to the field trying to find the Yowies and Dogmen now, or what?
I've got two places. One place is my cousin's place. I did a video. It's one of my recent videos up there, and it's all right. But we've had so much rain and stuff lately. Like I say, in the last 6 months, it's been bloody crazy with the rain. And you go out and it pisses down like 40, you get 40 mil in a day, and it floods and the rivers flood. So I haven't really been able to get out as much, but now it's starting to warm up, and it's so cold here. Like, we have the most extremes. Like, our town, in summertime, we get the hottest days, so we might get, say, a 45, 46 degree day. But then in winter, some mornings I'm getting up at work at 4 o'clock and it's -5. Like, so you go from so hot to so cold. So as soon as the sun goes down here, you're freezing. So I don't do much, too many trips at night in winter time. Wow. But now it's starting to warm up a bit. I'm going to be getting out more, and I've got a new camera and a drone and stuff, so I can do a bit more research than that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
You can pick up the good drones, like the DJI drones. You can get them for bloody, I think they're $450. I think they're about $300 over there, and they've got 4K cameras and stuff. Like,
wow, it's
awesome for that sort of stuff. It's just, you can travel 4 kilometers with them and stuff. Like, it's good to shoot them up in the sky and look for a spot that I might want to go check out. And it's so there's that spot, and another spot that's up. It's a secret spot we used to go to as kids with my grandparents. It's up in the bushland too, and there's a waterfall and stuff. I started going up there, and then the rain and that started to hit, and once it gets wet up there, you're sort of stuffed. Like, you could be down in the bush, and you'd be lucky to get out of the bush if it starts raining while you're down there. So we'll wait till it warms up, and we'll check out there a bit more. I haven't been over to where I had the Dogman encounters for a little bit. I've been over there one stage, like it was probably a couple of months after it happened. We went to, like, where I had the first encounter with the Dogman, and it actually, where you park, there's a big park there for the kids, like the play equipment and that. So we bought food one day and went over there. It was about lunchtime. We're like, we'll go over there and see if we can see anything. We went down for a walk down to the river so I could show my wife where it all had happened. So I saw where it got into the water. When we got down there, my daughter said, "Dad, can you hear that?" And I shit you not, you could hear the same roar in the distance.
Wow.
And she said to me, she goes, "Dad, is that your friend that you got photos? Maybe he's saying hello." And all the hairs in the back of my neck stood up, because at first I couldn't hear it, and then as soon as I could hear it, I was like, "Oh my God, that's that same noise." Yeah, and then it was only probably 2 months ago, same thing. Because there's a good takeaway shop over there. They do good fish and chips. So we're like, we'll go for a drive over there and get some food, and went back there, got out of the car, and as we were getting out of the car, not even near the water, my wife says to me, "Can you hear that?" And sure enough, you can hear that, oh. And my wife looked and she goes, "It knows you're here." Like, that's 3 times, like 2 times I've gone over there and not even gone looking for him, and they've heard the same howl that as I recorded. So it's pretty crazy.
You know, I've always been curious to know that if a Dogman and a Yowie can be in the same spot.
Yeah, I've heard there was a report, might have been on Sarah's show. It might have been, or another. It might have been there, and I heard a report of someone saying that they've heard Yowies and Dogman fighting somewhere.
Wow.
I'm not too sure. It might have been on Sarah's show. It might have been another show, but I've seen it somewhere. Yeah.
That's like a pay-per-view.
Someone reported.
That's pay-per-view. That's like a pay-per-view. I'd pay top dollar to see that, man, any day. So
yeah. They said, I can't remember. It might have been on there, but they didn't see it, but they heard it. They said they could hear the difference in them. and one would roar, and then the other one would roar, and they'd heard some other stuff going on.
Wow.
But they knew of that creature being here, and then the other creature being over there or whatever. They said that night that they could hear them both. It was like they were roaring at each other.
I mean, I've heard that, because like I was telling Sarah whenever I was interviewing her, that in the 90s and the 2000s, I reached out, because I've always been fascinated with Yowies. I've always been, I've always been fascinated. And I reached out to Rex Gilroy, like in the 90s. And I know he is like really old, like he's older now, like probably like in his 90s now. But he used to email me from time to time, and we would email each other. And like he would send me all these stories. And then like one of the stories was like a lot of the stories that he sent me. These like from what I took from it, Yowies are super, super aggressive, like super aggressive, and like they'll really push you out of an area, or they'll kill like if someone kills like a deer or something, a Yowie would come and just scoop it up while they're like. And so I've heard like lots of stories like that about them being very, very aggressive. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Like one of my good friends, I don't know if you've seen it, but have you seen Track Search for the Australian Bigfoot?
Yes, I have.
The documentary?
Yes,
my friend's Attila Caldy. He's the director and creator of that.
Wow.
And some of the stories that he's said when they've gone out to do that, where they've been escorted out of places, and some of the places they're going to, they're like a 20 kilometre hike into the bush off the track, you know what I mean? And then having that happen to them as they're coming out, like either side of them, escorting them out and stuff, like that scares me. Like all my encounters have been within bloody 20 metres of a house, or like say 500 metres of a house, but to go out to the bush and then have that sort of stuff like happen, you wouldn't be surprised. Like I've had my encounters with the Yowies and the Dogman, and I reckon Dogman are worse. Yeah. And I reckon a Dogman could explain a lot of missing persons in our bush.
Yeah,
I don't get that same feeling from Yowies, but I could be wrong because I haven't been in the thick of it down where they might be breeding and stuff like that. Like. Yeah,
I've heard you say that on your show, that you kind of think that's a lot of people go missing in the bush that way. So that's kind of interesting.
And that could be why there's no law of these creatures being over here.
Right.
It could be that no one's come back to report them.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like where they could be misidentified for Yowies, because there has been reports of Yowies having longer snouts and stuff like that. So people might have seen a Yowie, but it was actually a Dogman.
You know, I had always, I don't get a lot of Dogman sightings in Texas, and I used to, whenever I would get one, I would say, it's a misidentification. You know, someone just, you know, probably bad angle or something. I used to think that all the time.
That could be why. Yeah, that could be why that there hasn't been any reports, or the simple fact of the people haven't survived.
Yeah.
Because since I've had my encounter, like it was nearly 2 years ago now, and I never heard of any of them over here. And since then, I spoke to. Did you ever listen to the Believe podcast over here? Cade Moyer.
I don't think I have. You
have to look up him. He does a real good job. I did a podcast with him one day.
Okay.
But he told me over a couple of reports of Dogman. And then same as Sarah, she's had a heap of Dogman reports come in through the AYR and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But before speaking to these people, I thought I was the only one. Like, there's nothing on the internet, no reports anywhere. And they're like, yeah, no, there's been a couple, but not too many. But since then, even, there's been more and more come out. And it's weird because if they were here, like, how they get away with not being seen. But if they weren't here, how they get here, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because, like, the internet's how it's faster now, and people it's more accessible. So people probably, like, see these animals a long time ago and just not able to, like report it. So, I dig that, so.
Oh, there's just one more thing with the Dogman encounters. Oh, you would have heard it if you listened to my show. I couldn't remember up until I had my encounters that my dad reminded me. He used to be a milkman, and like I was saying, he'd work night shift and that. But before then, he was actually the actual milkman who went and delivered the milk to your house, and he'd work at night, like say from 2 a.m. till 4. Mm-hmm. So he'd do the day shift and then do that couple of hours in the night. And one night I couldn't sleep when I was about 5, I woke up, I heard something at my window, and I looked out and actually seen a dog looking in my window of my bedroom, and it had its paws up on the windowsill looking in at me, and it was looking me in the eyes, and I freaked out, ran into. He had like a spare room that when he was doing the milk run, he'd sleep in there so he didn't wake Mum up when he got up to go. And he goes, "Oh, shut up, get into bed, don't be silly." And then after about 5 minutes, a heap of pot plants got knocked over. I said, "See, it's out there." And he ran out there, turned the light on. He didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But he reminded me of that after I had these encounters. And he said, "How do you know that dog that was looking in your window wasn't one of these things?" Because as he said back then, I used to call the police dogs, which are German shepherds.
Right.
I used to call them police dogs. And he said, there was a police dog at my window. And if you look at that, you look at my photo and look at a German shepherd, they're not much difference.
Right, yeah. Wow.
That's
John, this thing's following you.
Yeah. That's
crazy. Like, and it was looking in the window like it could have been a pup back then, or whatever you'd call a younger dog man. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why it looked like the dog at the window.
Was it dark, like the one that you took a photo? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a spin out. As soon as he said that, I remembered it all. Like, it was like that, flicked the switch and went, wow, yeah, I remember that even, like,
that's
back
amazing.
then. Yeah. And we used to live right on the river then too, and it's a different river system, but if you followed them around and it followed the bush line, we call them like a green space, it actually connects up to where I had these encounters. So these things could be moving all around, and that's when I was saying that these Yowie bluff charges I had at this other river, like the first river system, it mightn't have been Yowies at all. It might have been one of these creatures.
Dogman, yeah.
Because it all joins up. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but it's been good coming on and have a chat to you guys. It's heaps good.
Man, I appreciate it very much. We really enjoyed it. I was actually looking forward to it all week long. Hey, I just want to say, number one, thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
How do our listeners find you on the internet? How can they find you?
If you just have a look up on just on YouTube, I've got my channel's Creepers, Cryptid, and Paranormal Corner, and then I've just got I think it's Anchor, so it just posts me podcasts onto Spotify too, so you can look up Creepers, Cryptid, and Paranormal Corner on there too. It's not real big at the moment, like I was saying, but it's the next couple of months. Now it's starting to warm up. I'll start pumping out a lot of material, so hopefully I can get it going a bit better then.
Yeah. Do you have like any way? Do you want people to reach out to you? Is there a way people can reach out to you?
Just on the channel, you can send them a comment, or I've got an email. It's creepers cryptids at gmail.com.
Okay.
It's just that. That's all I've got. Yeah. As I said, it's only little and just having a bit of fun, but hopefully I can get it as good as you guys. You do a heaps good job. Since talking to you, I've started listening to all your podcasts and that. They're really good.
I appreciate it, man.
It means a lot.
We talk about other stuff other than Bigfoot and Paranormal.
We try to mix it up every day.
We talk about Justin Timberlake and Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Stranger Things.
But I wanted to ask you, are you a AFL fan?
What, sorry?
AFL, Australian Rules Football.
Oh, I watch it a little bit. I'm more of an NRL fan.
Okay.
So we've got the National Rugby League. Have you watched that before?
I have watched that, but for some reason I'm infatuated with Australian Rules Football. I don't know why. But
it's really. I love watching AFL, but I'm more like, because I'm Eastern, like I'm Sydney. We're more of NRL, whereas Melbourne and the rest of Australia are more AFL. But I still love them both. I'd go for. I used to go for the Swans, but now I go for. Western Sydney Giants, just because they're closer to us. It's more of our area, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because like they used to have it on the local cable here. They used to have it all the time, but they don't have it anymore. So I have to go online. I have to go on the internet just to watch a match, because I was like a big Hawthorn fan. I don't know why. I just like. So I just like.
Yeah, nice. But you got to watch. You got to try and get into rugby league more.
Okay, all right. I will check it out.
It's just it's like they're trying to kill each other.
Yep.
You only got to watch. You watch some of the videos online of the when they put a tackle of the rugby league on there, and a guy that watches it, NFL watches it, and the way that they react, and they go, "What is wrong with these people?"
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough.
No body armor, no helmets or anything.
Yeah,
and they're all 100 kilo plus, just trying to murder each other.
But anyway, John, thank you so much for being on. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm so happy I was able to get you. I had to twist Sarah's arm a little bit, but I got you, so I'm pretty happy. And I say this to everybody, but I really mean this with you. You're more than welcome to come back on. I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I've really enjoyed it. And as soon as I find anything, if I find any more information or that, or any evidence in that, I'll get onto you and come back on again for sure.
Absolutely.
Hopefully one day when I get my podcast going a bit more, I can get you guys to come on and have a chat too, so I can learn a bit more about you guys.
I'm okay with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, John, thank you. Do you have any shout-outs you want to do? I always say that. Do you have any shout-outs you want to do, anybody?
Just if anyone's out there, if you just want to get on and have a look up Attila Caldy and look for the track search for Australian Bigfoot, and he's got a lot of paranormal TV shows and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You can get out and have a look at some of his stuff. I think we've got an app over here called Tubi, and they've got all his stuffs on there. And my other good friend Yowie Dan, if you look up the Australian Yowie on YouTube, he's got probably some of the best footage of a Yowie I've ever seen. I call it our Paddy film. There's a bit of footage he got of one jumping up on a rock and getting out of there. And you could check him out, and have a look at Sarah Bignell. She's awesome, and
I love her.
Same's Cade Moyer. Cade Moyer with the Believe podcast. Look him up.
Okay,
he's done it. He does a real good job too.
Right on. All right.
No worries.
Everybody, Steven, you have any shout-outs?
I love you, Blair.
Thank you, everybody. Make sure, everybody, that you go to www.bigfootclubpodcast.com. Go to our website, check out our merch, check out our old episodes, check out our bios. If anybody has any stories or if you need help in your area, be sure to reach out to us at bigfootclub1@gmail.com. That's bigfootclub1@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody.